In an interview with the Times of London, Professor Stephen Hawking discussed technology, AI, the future, and the changing world in general. And while Stephen Hawking has generally been a proponent of AI, he also has been an outspoken critic about the potential challenges it creates. And he had some pretty interesting solutions regarding those challenges. He said that, quote, "We need to be quicker to identify such threats and act before they get out of control," Hawking said. This might mean some form of world government. He cautioned, however, that such an approach, quote, "might become a tyranny." As technology continues to develop, it gets to a certain point where we hand off certain decisions to machines because we believe that they have reached a certain point where they can take care of a number of tasks more efficiently and safer than humans can. And AI is something that's been talked about a lot by think tanks, engineers, futurists, policymakers, and whatnot. And like pretty much any other form of technology, we're getting to a point where we're going to have to decide how to use AI in such a way that creates good for the vast majority of people. And though observers are divided on the nature and scope of AI related challenges, there's widespread agreement that these impacts ought to be addressed. And Hawking seems to think that world government, or at least increase international collaboration, could be a solution. Now, this article points to a gentleman by the name of Nick Bostrom, a professor at the University of Oxford, and he had some comments. And he said that, quote, "Yes, I think it's a much improved global governance may be necessary to deal with not only advanced AI, but also some of the other big challenges that lie ahead for our species. I'm not sure we can survive indefinitely as a world divided against itself, as we continue to develop ever more powerful instruments. Today, AI is involved in seemingly everything." There's a lot to unpack in that quote, and I think Bostrom was pretty accurate in most of what he said, especially when he mentioned that we can't really live in a world where humans are divided against one another. And I think this is particularly true considering just how integrated our economies are. And with an integrated economy, pretty much every party in the world has a stake in each other's success. Yet, many countries are acting as if that's not the case, and that there can be one winner and one loser, when in reality, we're kind of in a situation where we're all affected by any big change. So, even though humans have developed a lot over the past 1,000 years, went from tribes to chiefdoms to city-states to nation-states, and now even bigger states like international unions and all that, I think it's pretty reasonable to suggest that nations can collaborate a little bit further and maybe even integrate politically. Because most of the biggest problems facing the world, whether it be climate change, the economic crisis, globalization, or whatnot, they don't affect one country, they affect everyone. And another one of those problems is going to be AI. Increases in artificial intelligence are projected to lead to the automation of roughly 30% of all jobs in the next several decades. So I think the entire international community has a vested interest in coming to the table and putting together a strategy to alleviate a lot of the negative consequences of that, or at least some solutions to keep our necks above the water. So I'm not exactly sure what Hawking meant when he referred to having a world government. I don't know if he meant that every country in the world should unite. I don't know if he meant that we ought to give the UN a little bit more power in making some decisions that will be enacted across the world. He didn't really elaborate much. But one thing is for sure, AI is going to affect every country, and everyone does need to have a serious conversation about this, because it is quite possible that if we deal with AI with the best of intentions, we can, I believe, make it work for everyone. However, it is also very possible that we can use AI in such a way that just exacerbates income inequality, creates even more division among classes, and just ultimately makes the world a worse place. So perhaps we can conclude that when the global community comes to the table to talk about this, maybe some important discussions to be had could be the universal basic income and whether or not that's the best way to deal with a jobless economy overall, and also skills training. How do we prepare people to do jobs that still need to be done by humans? And also, what do we do in the longer term when most of the jobs are done by machines? How do we create a world for people to still live and thrive without working? Now, those are pretty big and important discussions to be had. And I think if we address these correctly, we can, like I mentioned earlier, create a pretty decent life for the vast majority of people. However, like I also mentioned, this can go terribly. And one of the ways this can go terribly and not work for most people is by just not doing anything and assuming that every decision one state makes is independent from that of the greater international community. But, this is just my take. I thought this is a very interesting article. I wanted to do my best to diagnose it and provide my own insight. Now, if you have any additional insight, please, I really want to hear what you have to say about that. And as always, do that in the form of a comment. And please like and subscribe to this channel if this is the type of content you're interested in. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.